A lot of speculation surrounding Max Verstappen and his future, especially with Red Bull Racing. Here to help me break this all down from Viaplay, Nelson Valkenburg. Nelson, thank you very much for taking the time to do this with us. We really appreciate it. You're from the Netherlands. You're close to this story. I mean, do you really think Max could leave Red Bull Racing?
I think he can. I think there are elements in the Verstappen camp that actually would like it already to be the case. He's been very calm over the last few years. There have been a lot of changes at Red Bull, and he's been at least steadfast in his commitment to the team, but there are some cracks here and there. And if I were him, I would be looking around because there's some big changes coming for the next few races and the next few years, rather, with the engine change. A lot of people leaving. I feel that the time would be right next year or maybe 27 to actually look around and go to another team.
Yeah, a lot of, that domino of people leaving the team has been such a big thing for Max. I mean, Rob Marshall first, then you had Adrian Newey, Jonathan Wheatley. I mean, is this sort of Red Bull degrading a little bit internally and it's now starting to bleed its way out into the car?
I believe it is, and I think you started off with the most important name. Rob Marshall, totally underrated for us, but not in this paddock. He was called Mr. Flexi Wing. He's the guy who understands the regulations, the absolute best. And look what he's doing at McLaren right now. They are on top of every regulation. And they're seeing this, Max sees this as well, but I think the big thing was the Bahrain test at the beginning of the year. If I read the body language correct, read between the lines, he was a little disappointed with the car they came up with after a long winter and a lot of clear guidelines from him what they needed. And the car does exactly what it did last year, so I think he was disappointed in the technical team, and you can start to see a little bit of frustration there.
A lot of teams being thrown around. I mean, Aston Martin being one of them. I don't see him going there at all. But Mercedes, that is something that does pique not only my interest, but I think a lot of other people's interest within the paddock as well. But Max has a particular type of a clause by the time he gets to summer break. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, we're all working under the same assumption, and that there's a clause in his contract where he needs to be within the top 2 of the Drivers' Championship by the summer break. If not, there would be an exit opening for him, but it's speculation. We don't know the exact text of that contract, but we hear it a lot. The problem is, if that clause is correct, it's going to be on the edge, and Barcelona and the wing change and the regulations will play a part in that. But I think you're right, Mercedes, if I had some money to spend on some gambling, which I don't, I would put the money on that, and that's what I would do at least.
And then looking at their driver lineup, I mean, Kimi Antonelli he's got to be there. Yeah, like he's got to be their future. So, I mean, that leaves George Russell with, at this moment, he doesn't have a contract for next season, Nelson. I mean, and that is what I've been hearing a lot of, is Max taking George's seat. Obviously, the rumors at this point, but what do you think?
We started hearing it in Jeddah that George and his people around him are shopping around, are starting to look left, right, and center for options. And so, you have fantasy football, you have all these things, fantasy grid. If I could make a fantasy grid and if I would play the game, then I would say, let's go to Alpine. Let Toto Wolff and Flavio Briatore hash it out. Free Mercedes engine alongside George in that car. And if you're Alpine and you have the team running as well as they are, you suddenly get a Mercedes engine that we all expect to be great. And on top of that, you have Gasly and Russell. Well, I would do that if I was Flavio Briatore.
Yeah, that's a solid lineup, but it's funny you say that. I mean, on Thursday when we were leaving the paddock, I saw actually Flavio and George Russell leaving together. I couldn't really hear what they were talking about, but when you look at Alpine, I mean, some people who are watching us and listening to this may think, well, why Alpine? Why not just go back to Red Bull? And I think, Nelson, a big part of that is Red Bull's engine power unit for next season, such a big regulation that is probably not the best place to go to for next year.
It is the first time that Red Bull Powertrains with Ford is going to build an engine from scratch. And I think when we started to hear that Ferrari, Honda, but especially Red Bull was pushing a little bit on the engine regulation side, more time to develop, that's a clear sign that they are not super happy where they are or not super confident. And you're not hearing this from Mercedes. And we all expect, I think you are the same with me on that, that Mercedes will have an advantage. That's what we're hearing in this paddock. And why wouldn't you choose the best engine for the next few years?
Nelson, really appreciate you taking the time to come and do this with us. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Cheers.